Welcome to 1500ESPN.com. Derek Wetmore and Andrew Krammer out here on a chilly day at Winter Park. The big news of the day, because we got to a lot of Josh Freeman stuff yesterday. Some injuries forced the Vikings' hand on a few roster moves. Why don't you touch on what they did today?
Yeah, obviously Desmond Bishop tearing his ACL in that right leg that he had already torn a hamstring on a year ago. Second season-ending injury. That's tough, especially for a linebacker that could have even eventually stepped in and maybe been their answer at the middle linebacker with Aaron Henderson being up and down in that situation. But he goes to IR. Obviously, that was going to happen. Rodney Smith gets moved up in the wide receiver core, which is interesting to me because Joe Webb and Cordero Patterson already get on the field, little enough. What's a sixth receiver going to do for you? But we'll see what they do there. It doesn't look like they're going to add much help in the linebacker core. They already have 8 of them on the roster, so I think they're just going to stick with those as is. Safety Harrison Smith obviously is out. That's the big news this morning. Safety Harrison Smith will not play on Monday against the New York Giants against Eli Manning, who's been struggling, but so is the Vikings secondary with their best player, Smith, in.
Right.
Now he's going to be out. So We'll see what that happens. Other than that, Josh Freeman spoke today. What did you hear out of him?
Yeah, I went to Freeman's press conference, and we talked to him yesterday for about 3.5 minutes. You were in the scrum in the locker room. Today it was more of a formal press conference setting. I guess the first takeaway that everybody had from him is that he seems like a little bit more confident guy. He just feels like he belongs here and that he's going to take this job by the reins. Some of the reporters, too, we were also joking a little bit that he's Brett Favre-esque in that he is pretty long-winded. I can't fault athletes for that. I have no problem with them getting up there and talking about a few points in one answer. I thought he was fine. He's not sure what to say. I mean, because obviously it's a kind of a confusing and awkward situation, a bit of dubious plans that the Vikings had with their quarterback setting. He did acknowledge that Matt Castle and Christian Ponder have helped him a lot, learning the offense, learning the strengths and weaknesses of given receivers and the protection schemes, while also acknowledging, they're probably a little bit disappointed because every quarterback in this league feels like they should be a starter, those two included.
One thing to note, too, with this whole thing was they actually had a press conference with Freeman. They didn't do that with 2 starts with Castle. Mm-hmm. So this is their Wednesday, technically, since it's a Monday night game. Right. So they'll have a press conference with a quarterback. Well, Ponder obviously would take the first 3 in the first 3 weeks. They didn't have one the past 2 weeks, whether it was the Steelers game or the Carolina game. So this is the first time they've had and actually named a starting quarterback. So Freeman has to absolutely tank in this game on Monday to not be given the job back the next week, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, and I really think that's their plan going forward. With 1-4 through 6 weeks of the season, I think the Vikings plan, honestly, to figure out if Josh Freeman can be their franchise quarterback going forward or if you're going to need to draft a quarterback or sign a free agent. That's pretty much their primary objective the rest of the season, and then, of course, to find out if Leslie Frazier and the coaching staff will stay intact. But from a wins perspective, they keep talking about focusing on every week and trying to be 1-0 this week. It really doesn't matter at this point. They're not going to get back in the playoff race. You just got to figure out some of your long-term answers at quarterback.
Definitely. And another thing, too, to note with Freeman is he'll be the tallest starting quarterback in franchise history at 6'6" with the Vikings, next to guys like Brad Johnson. So it'll be interesting to watch. And that matters to receivers, too. Guys like Jerome Simpson have told us that we can see the ball coming out of his hand over the offensive lineman. Ponder was only 6'2". Castle was 6'4". Now you get another 2 inches at 6'6". So it'll be fun to watch that coming on Monday. Now,
who are we to cast stones, though, Kramer? Yeah. I stand 5'9", and I'm not sure you're any better than that.
No, not at all. No.
One other thing that we talked about today, Adrian Peterson was back at practice after missing yesterday, kind of to a more moving on to a somber tone a little bit. You spoke with Peterson along with a group of reporters. What was the general vibe, and what did Peterson say this afternoon?
Well, Adrian, obviously, first off, for the first half of the interview with him, he just talked about Monday night's game and getting ready for the Giants, but it took a somber tone when we talked about the reason he missed Wednesday's practice was to attend the death of the funeral for his son who had died last week from attacks, injuries from attacks in Sioux Falls.
Alleged
attacks, excuse me. Peterson didn't go into it too much, but he had just confirmed some reports that he had only known the child was his for the past 2 months before he had heard about the child's unfortunate death. He had said that he had planned actually to go down and visit the child after he'd heard about that it was his. Those are the things maybe you don't hear about in tabloids. He was planning on connecting with the child and having a relationship. We didn't hear about that anywhere. So
he was financially supporting the family too.
He was financially supporting the family. He got things worked out with his mother. So he's still in contact with the mother. He still has contact with the police department as far as the investigation ongoing because person who's allegedly attacked this child has not been convicted yet, so that's ongoing. But he plans to play, plans to make his 88th consecutive start, with the Minnesota Vikings on Monday.
Yeah. For more updates from Winter Park, follow Andrew's coverage at 1500ESPN.com. I'm out here helping write a few things, but he's really taking the heavy lifting. Keep checking back for updates at 1500ESPN.com. For Andrew Krammer, I'm Derek Wetmore.